Okay, can I just confirm that the meeting is being recorded and that the live stream is on? Okay, thank you. I have pleasure in opening the council meeting of the 21st of May 2024 at 6 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. The City of Vincent would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to elders past and present and to emerging leaders, recognising that as the City of Vincent we have a role to play in terms of working towards reconciliation and justice for First Nations people. I have got an apology from Councillor Ashley LaFontaine, and I note that everybody else is present, and I note there are no councillors recorded as having a leave of absence. So can I just check to see whether there are any of the members of the public who are present who wish to address the meeting? Okay. All right. So if you haven't been to a briefing haven't been to a meeting of the City of Vincent before, we ask that when you come forward that you state your name and the suburb that you are from, and please state which item on the agenda you're speaking to. And we do time to 3 minutes, so can you please keep an eye on the clock, which will be on the screen in front of you. The meeting is being live streamed. If you don't want to appear on the live stream, please let us know at the beginning of your remarks. And a summary of your remarks are going to be included in the minutes, and responses, if required, will be in the agenda of the next council meeting. Okay, so would anyone like to come forward, please?
Good evening, Mayor Zaman, CEO David McLennan and councillors. Firstly, Flory, 79 Sass Ave, Mount Hawthorn. I have a large 900mm diameter stormwater pipe on my property, 1200mm diameter including flanges. Council, please take a moment to consider the profound impact this stormwater pipe has on my property and my retirement dreams. I have been significantly affected by the stormwater pipe on my property. I've been significantly affected by the size and location of the stormwater pipe. Been significantly affected by restrictions and unable to sell my property. I'd like to make comment. A formal hearing was requested with the City of Vincent decision makers, myself and a witness. The formal hearing was held in October 2023. Formal hearing was absolutely essential and warranted. The formal hearing was critical due to the significant impact of the stormwater pipe on my property. The City of Vincent did not follow the process of a formal hearing, which is part of procedural fairness. The City has denied me my rights to a fair hearing. The City has denied me my basic property rights and natural justice. Question 1. I would like clarification. Is the City of Vincent only going to notify residents a stormwater pipe is on their property only if maintenance is to be undertaken? Question. In the City of Vincent as a whole, not just the suburb of Mount Hawthorn, how many residents since the GHG report in 2022 until this present day, being the 21st of May 2024, have stormwater pipes running through their properties? I'd like the City of Vincent to be transparent and provide current numbers to date within the whole of the City of Vincent. Question. Information that remains outstanding from March 2024 council meeting. I have asked numerous times for the CCTV footage showing the condition of the old pipe on my property. It was confirmed in March 2023 CCTV footage would be conducted showing the condition of each segment of my pipe and joints being the weakest link. Since then, the City of Vincent have reproduced limited photos of all pipe technologies dated 2022 and CCTV footage after the UV lining was installed in April 2024. Please provide CCT footage, photos and report taken between the dates of the 31st of the 3rd, 23 to the 10th of the 4th, 2024. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would someone else like to come and address the meeting? Thank you.
Don't wish to be live streamed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to address the meeting, please? Wait, excuse me. So, can we please turn the stream back on? Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name's John Meggett. I'm a resident at 24 Chatsworth Road in Highgate. I'd wish to address item number 10.2, the Beaufort Street traffic works, on tonight's agenda. My concerns about the proposed Harold Street traffic alterations and are about the adverse impact on the traffic flow on Chatsworth Road. I wish to make the following points. I don't believe that the traffic figures used to justify the proposed works accurately reflect the vehicle collisions occurring in the neighbourhood. This is simply because vehicle collisions which result in damage that are valued less than $3,000 are not required to be reported to the police. I'd also suggest that many other collisions with damage over this value are resolved between the vehicle owners and insurers and do not show up on the public record. As stated at last week's councillors' session, which I attended, the proposal runs counter to the Austeroads Guide to Traffic Management, included in attachment 3 in the agenda, which states that in regard to the acceptability of the traffic management measures or schemes, it states that it's generally regarded as unacceptable if traffic is diverted to a lower order street or overloads neighbouring streets of a similar order in the network. The Highgate Precinct Traffic Report, which is also in the agenda tonight, fails to provide a comprehensive plan to address the traffic issues and simply focuses on Harold and Beaufort Streets. This solution is not, as indicated by the city's administration, a comprehensive approach, but instead it's an ad hoc response to managing traffic in the area, which will limit future options within the precinct. As a result of this, we're seeing the residents of Chatsworth Road being lined up against the residents of Harold Street. And I believe there's residents here tonight on how these matters are addressed, and that's not the way it should be. It should be resolved. So, in summary, I believe that by taking action now on Harold Street, we not only add traffic to Chatsworth Road, but increasingly funnel traffic through between Lord Street and William Street, along Broome and Chatsworth Road, making it the de facto east-west distributor road through the precinct. So I'm recommending that the council not proceed with the proposed Harold Street traffic works. That secondly, it revisits the precinct-wide traffic analysis to provide a more comprehensive consideration of the range of options available for the Highgate precinct. And thirdly, the consultation is carried out with the affected residents in the streets concerned. And look, I just might finish with a question to Madam Mayor. In relation to the Harold Street design process that's been carried out to date, are you of the view that it's acceptable to shift traffic volumes to Chatsworth Road as proposed without formally consulting with the residents of Chatsworth Road? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take that as a rhetorical question because that question is best to administration, and we, of course, will be discussing the matter tonight. Does anyone else wish to address the meeting?
Louise Schneider, Harold Street, Mount Lawley, agenda item 10.2. I speak regarding the proposed capital works project to implement a one-way street on Harold Street from Vincent to Beaufort. Council is more than aware of the reasons from residents supporting this initiative, so it's not necessary for me to present them again. But before voting on the proposal, I respectfully request Council consider the following points. Objections to the proposed change have mainly been from non-residents. Examples include objections citing inconvenience from the school community who use Harold Street as a drop-off and collection point. Sadly, in my opinion, this does not reflect any degree of reciprocal consideration for the users, by these users, for us, the residents, who are impacted by this on a daily basis. In my experience, the sometimes questionable driving habits of many of the school users exacerbate the traffic management problems we experience every day. Residents of nearby streets such as Chatsworth have expressed concern implementation of this proposal will only shift the problem to their street. May I again remind Council that unlike many of the surrounding streets, we do not have any abutting side streets or rear laneway access to our properties. In change theory, response to all initiatives can potentially provoke or promote disagreement. Rather than viewing this change as having an unfair bias to Harold Street, I would suggest Council regards implementing this as the first stage of the precinct-wide initiative. In the long term, this will benefit all residents of the Beaufort Street precinct. All change initiatives have a starting point, and given the recognised problems of this section of Harold Street, it does appear to be deserving of remediation sooner rather than later. A majority of residents of the street attended a meeting in early 2023, and from this meeting it was agreed and presented to Council a petition requesting and strongly recommending this change. At the time, we were unaware that the Beaufort Street had already been identified in 2021 as a black spot warranting remediation. This was prior to the development of the Beaufort or the Chalice apartments, which exacerbated the issues in our street. As far as I'm aware, Main Road supports this initiative and has the funding to release to Council in the next financial year. After 3 community consultations and numerous presentations to Council, it is not unreasonable to respectfully request or indeed expect a decision be made this evening. Thank you.
Okay, can I hear from the next speaker, please? Thanks.
Good evening, Glenn Christie from Vincent Street, Mount Lawley, and I'm talking about item 10.2 as well. For clarity, for councillors, I have street frontage off Harold Street as well, where our double garage is where we access our property. I'll open by stating I fully support in principle the city's intention to improve the black spot and the Harold Street traffic flow. I'll come back to my principal reasoning in a moment. At the OCM meeting of the 19th of March, a deferred motion was passed to allow for consultation. The motion stated, and I quote, to allow further public consultation on the direction of the one-way traffic. To date, I'm unaware of any resident on Vincent Street who has garage access off Harold Street having been consulted. Last Friday, I spoke with the city's manager of engineering to inquire about how and when public consultation occurred. I was informed that the city was required to consult with Harold Street residents only. This is contrary to the council's deferred motion. Exclusive only to Harold Street does not equate to public consultation. The city has excluded 4 properties at the west end of Harold Street who rely on access to our garages daily and are equally and significantly impacted by these changes. Only 7 responses out of 19 properties were received, 3 for, 3 against, and 1 wanting further information. If you include non-Harold Street postal address properties, such as the Chalice Apartments, Peppermint Gardens Apartments, Sacred Heart School, Church, etc., there are another 63 properties directly reliant on Harold Street access who likewise have not been consulted. Public consultation as directed by the elected members has not occurred. With regards to the Beaufort and Harold Street intersection, the city's engineering plans included in the OCM of the 23rd of August 2023, indicated a left-only turn out of Harold Street. The new concept-only plans as part of tonight's meeting at page 23 does not indicate any directional turns. In addition, there are no engineering plans existing to advise any modification at the intersection with Vincent Street. That is, where does the proposed one-way commence? Before or after school car parks? Before or after the Vincent Street garages such as my own, etc. I've raised both of these questions with the city's engineering manager, who advised that Main Roads and the city will finalise the details later and implement them with no further engagement with the residents. Therefore, my in-principle support is conditional on, firstly, a left and right-hand turn out of Harold Street, exactly as Mary Street is configured, exiting onto Beaufort Street. I think this will alleviate some of the Chatsworth Road issues. And secondly, the city providing detailed information and engineering plans for the Vincent Street end due to the proposed one-way traffic flow implementing all residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address the meeting? Yep, just come forward, please. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Mayor. Lou Cotter, 43 Chatsworth Road. So I'd like to address item 10.2. What we've heard here tonight is that Harold Street obviously needs some traffic management. It needs something to sort out a problem they've got there, but we don't want the problem shifted to Chatsworth Road, and I'm speaking as a resident of Chatsworth Road. And the evidence on accidents along Chatsworth Road is not reflected in the statistics because there are a lot of people, including myself, who've had cars damaged and not reported them to anyone. And it's pretty expensive because they're usually hit and runs because there's just something knocked off your car and they keep going. So we note that the speeds on Chatsworth Road, the evidence that has come from the traffic counts is above the speed limit. It's about average of 45 k's an hour, which is not dissimilar to Harold Street. So whilst we don't deny the residents of Harold Street having something done with their traffic issues, we don't want them to be executed at the detriment of the Chatsworth Road residents. So that's the clear message. So, I think last meeting, about a week ago, there was the suggestion that there was a holistic plan put together for the whole street block, which went from Vincent Street down to Bulwer Street, from William Street across to Beaufort Street, picked up the black spot intersections along Beaufort Street and elsewhere, and there's a complete plan done for the whole area, and there is funding available, I understand, from the MRD and the City of Vincent. The question that was asked at the council meeting last week meant that the funding was going to be expended in the financial year 23, I think someone said. Now, to me, that's this year, and that's only a month away. Is that right? So we know that from the council's own report, 57% of Harold Street residents support the proposal that is currently before the council are going to vote on. That's not a massive majority. So it's only 57%. What else do we need to say? Look, I heard a comment about the school site which goes between Mary Street and Harold Street. And, that school's been there for a long time. It's not unlike the Highgate Primary School, which has residents and parents park in Chatsworth Road to pick up the kids from Highgate Primary School because it gets too congested in the area. So it's not dissimilar. There's drop off and this pick up that occurs in streets other than the streets that primary schools located in. Those primary schools have been there since the 19th century effectively, so they're part of the community. They need to be accepted as part of the fabric of the community, and we have to work with them. There's been lots of comments about the anecdotal comments about the desire for traffic calming in the whole area. I respectfully request that the council consider deferring this, do a little bit more work on it, consult some of the people who have properties that interact with Harold Street, and get a plan that is a little bit more considered for the entire street block.
Okay, thank you very much. Have we got any further speakers that wish to address the meeting? Yeah, please you can just come straight forward. You don't have to wait.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members. I'm Mary Cropley. I live with my husband at 40 Vincent Street, which is opposite the apex of Harold Street and Vincent Street at the west end, opposite the church and the school. We provided feedback to the initial consultation in February 2024. Since then, we have followed up the proposal closely and have written to relevant admin staff here seeking more clarity. To date, the replies have not been fully answered our numerous queries. We note that in the March 19 minutes, Council ordered more public consultation. The briefing papers agenda dated May 14 refer to the consultation with Harold Street residents only. The papers state there were only 7 responses received. As a Vincent Street resident, we have not received an invitation to add further comment. This appears contrary to the council directive arising from the March 19 meeting. Further, there are no details on the proposed layout. There was only reference to a one-way from west to east towards Beaufort Street. The initial consultation referred to two parts, one way at both, two way at both ends and one in the middle, which seemed very convoluted, but we don't know any more than that. We appreciate the city wishes to secure the funding within each financial year, but we believe a whole approach plan is required, not piecemeal as Harold Street appears to be, especially given the possible knock-on effects to the neighbouring streets, including mine. And so I respectfully request that before council vote, we believe the directed consultation needs to take place, including the maps of the proposed layout, exit and entry points. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to address the meeting?
Lee Meyer, Chatsworth Road, Highgate. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillors Castle, Wallace and Wolfe for returning my emails. Much appreciated. And to Mr McGurk for providing me with extra statistics today. I wish to speak to 10.2 Harold Street. Well, I call it Harold Street. So the report basically looks at three issues: the nodes along Beaufort Street, Harold Street one way, and the broader area traffic management. The proposed nodes on Beaufort Street seem like a bold move forward. I think that they're really worthy of investigating and I think should be supported. They've got the potential to really improve Beaufort Street and make it more people-friendly. I strongly oppose the one-way proposal on Harold Street. The support seems lukewarm at best. The latest statistics show 3 for, 3 against. The interest seems to have dropped, and I think maybe it's because you've got residential-only parking on one side of the street and people are now happy. One of my neighbours spoke to someone in Harold Street last week, early in the morning, coming out of their house, small kids said, "Got any problems?" "No, everything's fine." So people in Harold Street seem to be happy. Glenn's comments about not being consulted are a real concern, particularly given the plan that's been floated in the report. It is so vague. It looks like it could end up to being like the Chelmsford Road solution, where you can't get in one way, but the rest of the street is two-way. It's extremely vague, so I don't know how you can make decisions based on that. Traffic Management 101 tells you don't just move a problem to other streets. You need to consider the broader area. And as I mentioned to the councillors, Main Road has a really good document called the Low Cost Urban Road Safety Strategy. Essentially, they look at whole areas. Those areas are defined by distributors or district distributors. So in our case, it would be Vincent Street, Beaufort Street, Bulwer Street and William Street. You look at that whole area and then you look at the various treatments that they've identified. They've identified 6 or 7. They've given the strengths of those individual treatments. So you look at the whole area, you work out what the problems are, which treatment might solve it, and most importantly, you consult with people in the whole area. The idea is that you're moving traffic from the local areas to the distributors. The only people who are on local streets are local people. So I'd urge you to go along with that. Just a correction, the recommendations made a wrong reference to the attachments and Councillor Hallett's amendment. It's attachment 1, not attachment 2. The second item I wish to speak to is on the street tree policy. I note that 5 respondents were recognised. None of us were contacted. I did contact the people because their details are in the public domain. I've already sent an email to councillors. I urge you to do more work on this. There's too many ambiguities in the policy. There are now internal conflicts within the policy and it needs more work. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to address the meeting? Thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jonathan Easter. I'm 34 Chatsworth Road, Highgate. I'm speaking in relation to item 10.2. I'll keep it relatively brief. I fully endorse the statements that have been made by Lou Cotter and Dudley Meyer. My concern about the proposal for Harold Street is that it simply wants to shift a problem from Harold Street effectively onto Chatsworth Road, and the report apparently states that it's not expected that Chatsworth Road will be negatively impacted by this level of increased traffic. Now, the concern that I have is that if that is the case, why is it not that that level of traffic does not significantly impact Harold Street? The other concern that I have is that there's been inadequate consultation with the residents of Chatsworth Road, and it's quite obvious that Chatsworth Road is going to be impacted by the Harold Street proposal. I'd ask that this matter be given further consideration, further consultation before any decision is taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the meeting? Okay. All right. So I advise that the items that have been spoken on that are in the agenda, and that being item 10.2 and 10.4, will be brought forward and discussed first. So there being no further questions, I close public question time at 6:29. Okay. Governance Manager, could you please confirm if any written statements were received?
Confirming we received one written statement from Dudley Meyer of Highgate. A response to any questions raised will be contained in the agenda of the next meeting.
Okay, and responses to previous public questions are listed in the agenda. I haven't received any requests for leave of absence, and I have not received any petitions, deputations or presentations. So now we move to confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 23rd of April 2024 be confirmed. Do I have a mover for that? That's moved Councillor Wolfe and seconded Councillor Castle. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, so I wanted to make an announcement about the Community Safety Forum, which the City of Vincent held on the 6th of May. This was held down in the North Claysbrook precinct in the Claysbrook hub. And the reason this forum came about was due to increasing concerns, particularly over the last few months, but really over the last couple of years, for residents about the degree of antisocial behaviour occurring in the precinct. I will be upfront and say I also live in the area and have been quite badly affected by this, particularly living next door to a known squat. And so it was important that we were able to have a discussion about this as a community so that people could express what was going on and is going on, and or hear from the police and also hear from the council about what potential options were available. I want to note that Honourable John Kerry made a point of coming along to listen, so that was appreciated. And we also had people from a range of homelessness outreach services that came along to ensure that people had information and to also listen to the concerns. What became very clear through the course of the discussions were a few things. The first thing is that it is important to note that we shouldn't make a direct correlation between those people who find themselves rough sleeping, those people without a home, and the degree of increased antisocial behaviour that we are seeing in the area. It's quite clear that outreach services are engaging, once they become aware of people who are rough sleeping, with people who are seeking supports, and that those supports are available. And when there was close examination as to the sorts of behaviours we were talking about, it was clear that we weren't talking about people who are simply trying to find some shelter, but it was a different category of behaviour that we were talking about. The second thing that was really clear is that people in the precinct have not been reporting concerns to the police. Now, I'm aware that a big reason for that is because people, frankly, have given up and they just feel sick and tired of doing that. It's really annoying to be constantly dialing 131 444 and being kept on hold and then taking 20 minutes to have to report every single time antisocial behaviour occurs. But what's really clear is that because people aren't reporting as often as it's occurring, it means that the police presence has not been there to be able to address antisocial behaviour concerns, and especially the increasing number of concerns. So I know myself that we've had people break into our property on numerous occasions, stealing, washing, trying to break into the cars, sometimes succeeding in breaking into the cars on our property, damaging things. And that's happened in our street right up and down. And that's become a very common occurrence for people. And we don't always report because you get so sick of it and it just happens so often that you just give up in some respects. But it is really, really important that residents don't just take this for granted and assume that this is something that they can't do anything about. And the importance of reporting is critical. So one of the things that we have encouraged people to do is to use the Crime Stoppers app as much as possible, which is an easy way to quickly report stuff, and so that the police will end up having more accurate stats of issues of break-ins, attempted break-ins, when stuff is taken from cars, when bikes are being stolen, when people are breaking in, all of these sorts of things. So that's really critical. But one of the things that I want to speak about that came out of the forum that is of grave concern is that whilst there is not a direct correlation between people who are rough sleeping and antisocial behaviour, there is a correlation between an increased use of alcohol and other drugs and antisocial behaviour. And one of the concerns is that we are finding a number of people who are coming into the Vincent area from the trains and from public transport specifically for the purposes of coming in and taking drugs and purchasing drugs and then staying in the area. And so there are some real concerns about how we can ensure that people who have found themselves on the unfortunate cycle of drug abuse are able to be connected up with services and are able to start getting the supports they need, as well as the fact that people need to be able to feel safe within their own communities. And so one of the issues I also want to speak on is the concerns that about the number of hypodermic needles which we are starting to see in Vincent. People who know anything about my background will know that I'm a long-time advocate for harm minimisation when it comes to the issue of alcohol and other drugs. And as part of that, I am a big supporter of needle exchange regimes because they are an important way to ensure that that illicit drug users are connecting up with services, are able to be regularly monitored, are able to be warned about dangerous batches of drugs that are going through the system, these sorts of things. But if we have services that are just handing out needles, then what is happening in practice is that it is meaning that people are less likely to be connected up with critical services at a time when they really do need to. And it means that we are seeing the needles pose a serious public health risk. So I need to congratulate the parks team who every morning are going through our playgrounds and trying to actually collect up the needles. I also note that people are finding needles in their gardens. I've found them in my front garden when I've been gardening, and that it is becoming a big problem. So one of the things that I'll be doing is writing to the Minister for Health around this issue, because we need to find out why all these needles are able to be out in the streets. And when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about literally hundreds and hundreds that are being found on a regular basis. And it also means that it's having the unfortunate side effect of not only being a health risk, but also meaning that people who need supports are not being connected up with services on a regular basis. So this is a public health issue. It's a concern, and something that we recognise at the City of Vincent needs to get addressed. Okay, CEO, do you have any declarations of interest that you need to express?
Yes, through you, Mayor Zaman, the following declarations of interest have been received. The first from Councillor Warner, a financial interest in relation to item 11.6 on event sponsorship, noting that Councillor Warner is the General Manager of Perth International Film Festival, which has been recommended for sponsorship. Councillor Warner is not seeking approval to participate in the debate, nor to remain in the chambers, nor vote on the matter. Councillor Castle declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 11.6 on event sponsorship, noting the interest is that Councillor Castle was a friend of one of the organisers of the Providore Market, which has also been recommended for sponsorship. Mayor Zaman declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 11.6 on event sponsorship, noting that she is a member of the East Perth Football Club who have applied for funding, noting the application is not recommended for approval. Councillor Wallace declared an impartiality interest in relation to item 9.4, which is an amendment to the Sustainability and Transport Advisory Group terms of reference. The extent of the interest is that Councillor Wallace has been appointed as a member of the Sustainability and Transport Advisory Group. That's all that I received for tonight's meeting.
Okay, so items which are the subject of a comment from the members of the public include 10.2 and 10.4. Items which require an absolute majority decision are 12.1 and 12.3, and items where a member has declared a financial interest is 11.6. So, Councillor Wallace, are there any other items that you wish to
No,
speak
thank you,
to?
Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Warner. Councillor Castle.
9.1 and 11.4, 11.5. That's it.
Okay. Councillor Greer. Councillor Alexander. Councillor Wolf.
9.3, please.
Councillor Hallett. Okay, and in addition to that, I had 10.1 and I had 10.1 in addition to the ones that are already been spoken about. So I'm now going to just go right through. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull together the list now, including 9.4, to which Councillor Wallace has an amendment.
Confirming the following items will be moved en bloc: 9.2, 10.3, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 12.1 and 12.4.
Okay, so do we have a mover for those motions to be moved on block? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Greer. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay. Okay, so now we move to item 10.2, Beaufort Street Precinct Area Road Safety Treatments. Do we have a move of this? This is moved by Councillor Hallett, seconded Councillor Castle. Okay, Councillor Hallett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a few general comments. I do want to acknowledge the Chatsworth community who've spoken in the public gallery and been in touch over the last few weeks to share your concerns. I also want to acknowledge the Harold Street residents who have likewise spoken with us tonight and previously and shared their own distress about road safety on the local street and submitted the petition that prompted some of this work. Both communities have raised serious fears of safety in these local roads that warrants attention and action from Council. What I've been less clear of is a clear rationale for changing Harold to one way in either direction, as it's changed over the last few meetings, in isolation from broader intervention across the neighbourhood. Council's been clear for some time that we want to move beyond ad hoc single street interventions that push the problem around. Instead, we want to seek responses that transform the road infrastructure across a whole precinct to prioritise pedestrian safety and shift cars off local roads. I believe that admin is also of this mind, but of course when community members do raise local concerns, such as through petitions, we're also obligated to consider them and act responsively. Where I've landed on this item though is based on a few factors. Already canvassed has been the limitations in the approach to community consultation. Also a factor is the application of the warrant system and the interpretation offered in the report based on the different data points that have been incorporated. So I don't support the motion as it is, and I have an amendment on the green, but we'll leave it there for other councillors to comment on the substantive in the meantime.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I agree with the sentiments of Councillor Hallett. I don't think there's any question that Harold Street warrants some treatment. I would venture that Chatsworth probably also warrants some treatment, and that's been quite clear from the evidence that administration has provided to us and from the comments in the chamber. What I'm not comfortable with is making these changes or applying these treatments in isolation. As Councillor Hallett said, we have been talking for some time about a precinct-wide approach and trying to actually resolve these issues rather than shuffle them around the neighbourhood. I don't think that we can, in all reasonableness, accept that 500 cars won't have an impact on Chatsworth but will have an impact on Harold such as to warrant treatment. I think we need to have a more nuanced approach and to delve deeper into the options there. I'm also not comfortable with only putting a 6-year time frame on the resolution of these issues. I do understand that the reference to 6 years refers to implementation, but I think it is important that we've give some certainty to the community about the time frame in which we will be developing the plan and setting out some milestones to when that can be implemented over that time period. I want to also acknowledge that it is very frustrating for the community members. I know the Harold Street community have been talking to us for some time, and more recently Chatsworth community have been talking to us. It's tough when these matters get deferred and moved along without any immediate resolution, but I don't think that we should be rushing to do that when we might not be getting it right. I'm very interested in the amendment on the green. I'll leave that to Councillor Hallett to move if he chooses to. But yeah, I would be looking for a precinct-wide approach with a pretty definitive timeline on it.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the substantive? Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zamon, and thank you so much to the community that have come today and shared with us their concerns and for raising the concerns of both Harold and Chatsworth Street for quite a while. To add my voice that I really feel it's important to take a whole of precinct approach to this decision. I am concerned that proceeding with the one way on Harold Street, as we've is proposed, will cause greater challenges to the residents on Chatsworth Street, and that additional 500 cars is the serious concern. So just say I appreciate Councillor Hallett's proposed amendment and look forward to that.
Anyone else wish to speak on the substantive motion? I wish to make some comments about the substantive motion. I suppose frustration is how I would sum this up. But a lot of my frustration lies with main roads, the main roads department, and I think a lack of flexibility and of working with councils to be able to come up with timely and appropriate solutions. Where we've got black spots that have been identified, that should be any years that go past without having that funded by the state government means that potentially more lives are lost, but it also just means that timely opportunities to be able to deal with ongoing issues of traffic congestion, it makes it very difficult when you're living there. I've said this before. We are required, and I'm supportive of this, to increase our density footprint quite significantly as the City of Vincent, but that means that there needs to be commensurate investment by the state government in ensuring that we are able to have timely road treatments to be able to address the inevitable increase in traffic that comes with that. So very concerned that there doesn't seem to be coming to the party by the state government in a timely way to actually address this. Like every other councillor, I'm supportive of a precinct-wide approach, at the same time acknowledging the sheer frustration of those residents that are being affected on a daily basis in Harold Street. They are contacting us, so even if they're not responding to community consultation, they're contacting us, and we're hearing the stories firsthand and the frustration firsthand. So that's important to actually note, that councillors are often the first ones to be on the receiving end of hearing when people are distressed about these sorts of things. But nevertheless, I'm not supportive of taking one problem and simply transferring it somewhere else, even if it's only going to be for six years. That 6 years can be the longest 6 years of your life if you're having to live on that actual street. So I am hoping that we're going to come up with a solution tonight that means that we can have something in a more timely manner, and that is going to go some way towards trying to address the issues of rat running. But at the same time, I think we need to have a real concerted push with main roads to have them take a more collegial approach to dealing with local councils to address these issues. Councillor Hallett, did you wish to move your amendment?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. Agree with some of those comments. Perhaps we could have some light rail as well. So I'd like to move this amendment, if I can get a seconder, which essentially focuses on emphasising the precinct-wide approach and then providing some timeframes and focus for that.
Is there a seconder for the motion? So that's seconded, Councillor Alex Castle, sorry. Okay. Councillor Hallett, would you wish to speak to?
Thank you. Yep, so this is focusing on that we support the development of the road safety implementation plan for the entire precinct, with an emphasis on the Beaufort Street Nodes project that was in the attachment. Also to note that that's an implementation plan for actually doing all of the infrastructure works, which are significant. And we heard last week, I guess, some of the challenges in how that funding will not be provided to us all in one block, and it has to be staged over a period of time. But also the amendment includes the focus on prioritising the spots. You know, we have black spot Harold Street, we've got black spots all over the precinct, and so it's really important that we do act across the precinct, but some areas are going to require works more quickly than others. And so we are looking at Harold and Chatsworth. I do just want to make a comment though, in terms of the timeline. And I guess there was a comment from someone in the gallery around we have to start somewhere. And absolutely we do. What I think is important though is if we have a coherent plan that addresses the entire precinct, it allows people to see where they fit within that timeline. So yes, something will happen first, probably Harold, but folks in Chatsworth know that they're up next. They know what the time frame is, and if there are diversions of traffic to roads around them, people know that it's for a certain amount of time, and they can hopefully live with that, knowing that they'll be next. In terms of the plan, this initial amendment requested that to be done over an 18-month period. I'm wondering whether we should bring that forward a bit. And so with the approval of the seconder, Mayor, if I can change that to be 12 months instead of 18 months, with a question to administration that obviously that would speed things up at your end, but also that we do have budgets and staffing requests that can come through and ways that we can support you.
I'm going to hand over to administration to answer that.
Thank you, Mayor. We could tackle it. We just need to make sure we've got resourcing in this forthcoming budget to be able to undertake that detailed planning and design. We'll make sure that we do have something within the budget to be able to accommodate it. And the intent would be, given the amendment that's up there, to just tweak that amendment to say for council consideration by May 2025 with progress update via council workshop March 2025.
Councillor Hallett, is that the amendment you're going to be putting forward?
I'm not sure those dates were correct. March 25 sounds...
Thank you. We'd give you an update where we are at the council workshop, not with the final draft, but where it is heading. But the final draft would be to council in May 25.
Councillor Hallett, is that the amendment that you are contemplating putting forward to this meeting?
Can we please request the workshops a bit earlier than that? Up to 9 months?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, we could slip it back to February and hopefully we're reaching that deadline under tight timeframes.
Okay, so Councillor Hallett, you are moving the amendment as presented, and you have altered the timelines on that, and I'm just confirming with Councillor Castle that you are happy to accept.
Yes, happy with that. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, so is everyone clear of the amendment that we are speaking to now and the timeframes that are in there? Okay, so just to advise Wendy, the people in the gallery can't see. It isn't projecting up on the screen apparently. Thanks to the people from the gallery for telling us, because I can't see whether it's up there or not. We're looking over here at this one here. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a chance to make sure that that's the one that we've got up here is the one that we're now speaking to. Yes? Great. Okay, so Councillor Hallett, you wish to, okay, Councillor Castle, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, just to support for all of the reasons that we've previously discussed on the substantive, and very happy with that revised timeframe. I think that my concern with March would have been that that didn't leave much time for change and a progression between that and May. So, yeah, I'm very comfortable to support this and look forward to hearing about it in March next year.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to this amendment? Hey, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of this and just wanted to thank Councillor Hallett for working through this complex issue. We've got many needs, competing resources, and I think that you've done a good job to work through those complexities. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? Against? Okay, so that is Councillor Alexander against. Okay, we now have the amended substantive motion in front of us. Does anyone wish to speak to the amended substantive motion? Okay, Councillor Hallett, would you wish to speak? Okay, we'll put the amended substantive motion. All those in favour? Against? Okay, that's carried with Councillor Alexander voting against the motion. Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to 10.4, outcome of advertising and adoption of street tree policy. Do we have anyone to move this proposal? So moved Councillor Wolf, seconded Councillor Wallace. Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin firstly by thanking the community on this one. The community has engaged really, really deeply with this particular policy, and we've heard from experts in the field, we've heard from people with limited experience, and it's really heartening to see that our street trees is really a matter that is close to the hearts of our community members. I'd also like to acknowledge administration for updating the policy to reflect some of the views that we heard from the community and that we discussed at the briefing last week. We have continued to hear from the community, however, over the course of the week, and something that we have heard from some community members is that those amendments haven't gone far enough to really capture those issues and community expectations around street trees. A number of councillors have flagged possible further considerations for discussion. So on this one, my feeling is that there is further work to do. It's an issue that's obviously really important. It cuts across Vincent. And for something that's this important, potentially, there is some further work that we can do to make sure we are getting the best outcome for our street trees, for the environment, and for everything that it brings to the community. So obviously, I'll let this motion be seconded and give other people a chance to speak. But I would just like to flag an intention to put forward a procedural motion for a deferral on this matter.
Councillor Wallace.
Thanks, Mayor Zaman. Look, I support everything that Councillor Wolf said. It's very important policy and important to get it right. I did have an amendment that I put forward modifying a fairly long list of items in it, which I've since pulled. So I would support the motion to defer so that we can do some further work on this behind the scenes and bring it back to council. Maybe even refer it to STAG. I don't know.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I'm supportive of a deferral because I think we do probably want to have a fuller discussion about the changes that have been discussed. But I just wanted to flag when we do have that discussion that I had an intention to raise an amendment for a stretch goal of native trees. So perhaps that can be included in our discussion at the workshop.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Alexander.
I can recall this motion when I was working in another place by the City of Vincent 10 years ago. And we're still talking about the tree policy. So, and I know there are some additions to it now with pothole borer and other issues that we've got to consider as well as drying. And so, I think that there are probably some alterations to be made, but we can always learn by history. So could I request that we also get some of the works that's been done in the past, so we can also review that.
Okay, so is there anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Wallace, are you moving a question? You've already spoken. Okay, all right. Okay, so a question, yes?
with the approval of the governance manager. I just asked a question last week about the status of the street tree register, if I've got the name of that right, and I was told there was an audit ongoing. I was wondering if there was, as manager's not online, any updates on the progress of that audit? And I guess given that we're living through a mass mortality event for trees at the moment, what additional actions are being taken currently to address this prior to the review of the policy going forward?
Manager?
Thank you, through the chair. The status of the register is that we've recorded all street trees on the register, and we've commenced on recording all trees in the public realm. We've started on Hyde Park, which is a natural one to approach. We haven't had the opportunity to be able to respond to the questions in respect to where we are at in respect to the audit of the street tree. We haven't had the resource to bring to bear on that. But we will be able to provide an update either before or at the next workshop when we discuss this item.
Anyone else like to speak on this motion? Councillor Wolf, you indicated you had a procedural motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to move a procedural motion for a 1-month deferral.
Okay, and do we have a seconder for that? Okay, that's seconded, Councillor Warner. All those in favour? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so she's already said what it's for. So all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so we will be dealing with that proposal. That's it. At the next meeting of council. Just one second. Okay. I'd already spoken to them. That's why. Okay. All right then. No, that's fine. Okay. So we're moving on. Thank you. So now we go to 9.1. So that's Scarborough Beach Road, Mount Hawthorn, proposed alfresco structure to restaurant cafe. Okay, so that was, okay, that's moved, Councillor Castle, seconded, Councillor Hallett. Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I'm supportive of the officer recommendation. I just wanted to make some observations on this item. The alfresco structure at Spritz is something that's well loved in the Mount Hawthorn area, and it's definitely added to the vibrancy of the Scarborough Beach Road strip. But I also think it's worth noting that this is a structure that prompted a change in the delegations and in the way these are dealt with by council. So it is important that we understand what we're balancing when we approve structures like this. This is obviously part 2, having already dealt with the licence for the area. It is quite a dominant structure, and it's probably the biggest one that we have seen in Vincent and probably will ever see. So it is important that we get the balance right. I think that's what's always been at front of mind for me in considering our alfresco structures, is that we provide vibrant spaces for people to enjoy the businesses and the areas, the alfresco areas of our main strips, but we also don't allow that to the detriment of other users. So it is still a public space. It is near a footpath, and we do need to always ensure that both access is preserved, so people can move through on wheelchairs, with prams, with other mobility issues, or just generally walking down the street, and that we ensure people under the community understands this is not an exclusive right to the area. So as I said, I am supportive, but I think that it is important that we note what are the priorities when considering these.
Councillor Helen? Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay.
Just ask, how do we record all that?
Sorry, Councillor Alexander, could you explain?
Well, Councillor Castle has just made about 10 different statements. So do we record those or how do we handle that?
No, I mean, it's part of the discussion and the debate that we have as a council in the same way that,
So are we voting on that or we're not?
No, we're not voting on, there's no amendments in front of us, so we're not voting on that.
All right, I just wanted to better understand. Thanks.
Does anyone else wish to make it? Councillor Hallett.
I guess just to comment on that, since this was developed, we have new policy settings within the city to avoid it in the future. So that kind of addresses some of the concerns that Councillor Castle has made.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this motion? Okay, Councillor Castle, is there anything you wish to say in response? Okay, I'm going to put the proposal. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to 9.3, advertising of proposed revocation, amalgamation condition on planning approvals. So do I have a move for that? Moved Councillor Wolf. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Wallace. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really comfortable that this policy is no longer fit for purpose and that we should move to consultation on removing it. We certainly want to avoid circumstances where a condition is posed for invalid reasons because of this policy. But I did just want to take this opportunity for a quick reflection. We've got 2 items on the agenda that relate to rescinding or removing policies. And we've got this sort of ongoing policy review that's looking at our policy framework, whether it's current, whether it's fit for purpose. And I was really pleased to see this lens in terms of, do we have parts of our policy framework that we can actually remove because we can get the outcomes another way, for example, by an information sheet. There's this absolutely horrific acronym in government, SSR, for simplification, standardization, rationalization, which is awful to say, but I think it's a really important lens when we look at the potential to just keep building and adding to our policy framework and getting adverse outcomes. I would really support this continued work and continuing to look at our policy framework in this regard.
Councillor Wallace.
No comments. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, would anyone else wish to speak on this motion? Okay, I'm going to put the proposal. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move to 9.4, amendments to Sustainability and Transport Advisory Group, terms of reference. Do we have a mover for this? Moved Councillor Wallace. Do we have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Hallett. Councillor Wallace, over to you.
Thanks, Mayor Simon. I haven't been on the stag long, but I found it a very useful group and it's filled with a lot of very experienced and talented community members. The support that it's been in this iteration intended to just guide the development of the enhanced environment strategy, but I think with the members that we have, there would be strong benefits to the city to allow them to continue on in the role and help review its implementation and make recommendations there and provide further advice to the city on occasions, potentially such as the review of the street tree policy. So happy with most of the substantive motion, but I do have an amendment to extend the life of the stag for a little bit longer.
Okay, so I'll just see if people want to comment on the substantive and we can come back to your amendment if you wish. Councillor Hallett.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment, as the previous member of the STAG in the previous term, it is a fantastic group with a lot of expertise and have provided impetus for a range of activities in the city around sustainability. And as well as oversight of our sustainable environment strategy, have also had insights that have influenced other policy settings. So I'm supportive of the proposed amendment that Councillor Wallace has said might be forthcoming.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the substantive motion in front of us? Councillor Wallace, you've indicated you have an amendment.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Salmon. I'd like to move the amendment on the blue-grey here. Don't have anything further to add. Set my piece already.
I'll see if there's a seconder first. Do we have a seconder for this amendment? That's seconded Councillor Wolf. So do you wish to speak to the amendment? Okay. Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to this amendment? Okay, I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. So now I come back to the amended substantive motion. Does anyone else wish to speak to the amended substantive motion? Okay. Councillor Wallace, is there anything you'd like to say? Okay, I'm going to put the amended substantive motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we move to 10.1, closure of Birrell Street. Is there any, is there a mover for this proposal? Moved, Councillor Warner. Is there a seconder for this proposal? Seconded, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Warner, do you wish to say anything?
I just wanted to open discussion on this because I believe there may be another council member who would like to talk about this.
Councillor Wallace?
It wasn't me, but so I do support the item as written. Thank you.
It was me. I want to say I very much support this. I very much support this proposal. One of the things I am really keen to do, though, is to see if we can have a precinct approach, particularly in the area between Green Street and Scarborough Beach Road as well. Just flagging that this is something that's particularly concerning. I think I'm particularly concerned about the rat running that's coming from Green Street going over towards Scarborough Beach Road. I know that it is affecting residents, and I understand there's a history behind it and it's problematic. But wondering if there's some way that other traffic calming measures can be utilised. For example, I'm not an engineer, but even things like if you're entering Green Street, only being able to do left turns rather than right, that would certainly stop a lot of the rat running going from Green Street down to Scarborough Beach Road, because I do know that that whole area is very, very congested. So I mean, again, this is the whole problem with what we're facing in Vincent, isn't it? We've got rat running everywhere. We've got increased congestion, and I'm really looking forward to the state government giving us huge amounts of money to deal with the increased amount of traffic. And I'm looking forward to the light rail as well. That's going to come our way, I'm sure. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I think many of us are well aware of how very confusing and unsafe this particular intersection is. I know I'm filled with anxiety, particularly at that two-stop process coming from Green to Scarborough Beach Road. I think there are many, many reasons to support this one. It's been a long time coming, so I do support it. But I also wanted to just call out that administration has done really well to identify that opportunity within the new cul-de-sac to explore more sustainable, supporting more sustainable transport options. So that's appreciated as well.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so now I get on to 11.4 differential rating strategy 2024-25. Do we have a mover for this? Moved, Councillor Castle. Seconder. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Castle, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I pulled this out because I don't think it's appropriate for us to pass the differential rating strategy on block, and it does warrant some comment. I'm pleased to see that we are proposing a 4% rate rise, which is less than what was anticipated in the LTFP. Last year, we had a lot of improvements in how we were able to progress through our budget and through the approval of the LTFP at the same time, and that has really put us in a good position to plan ahead in our budgeting process. So it's great to see that while we can also manage community expectations through the LTFP and have some better forward planning, we're also able to adjust, and in this case in the favour of residents, from year to year, and then to reassess that plan over for the next 10 years. There's always a lot of interest in the number, the 4% or whatever percent it may be each year. I always find it really interesting to equate that to a dollar figure, which administration have provided for that for us. That 4% equates to $63 per year on the median house in Vincent, which really puts it in perspective. It's good to see that we again have a $50,000 hardship fund for those who may need some assistance with paying their rates, and that we continue to be one of the lowest rating councils in the metro area. So, yeah, thank you to administration for the hard work they've been doing on our budget. Look forward to the next phase of that next month. And for now, very happy to support this particular item.
Councillor Wallace, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Well said by Councillor Castle.
Has anyone else wished to speak on this item? I wish to make some comments. I'm really pleased that we're proposing, well, hopefully we'll see if we get support, but that we're proposing an increase in the differential rates between residential land and commercial land and those unoccupied land parcels. I think it's really important that we do have disincentives to people particularly to keep properties vacant, and also we want to do what we can to discourage land banking, especially in the middle of a housing crisis where we need to have people thinking about creating more dwellings. But one of the reasons I'm very supportive of increasing the differential rates is because the costs that are being incurred by the council to try to address increased levels of antisocial behaviour in uninhabitable buildings or even on vacant lots is considerable. And so I know that in the past there has been a mindset to say that if blocks of land or if uninhabitable homes are not occupied, there's a decreasing cost to council because they're not having to deliver services such as rubbish removal. My response to that is it is way more expensive to have to deal with the ongoing public health issues and the security issues of having those parcels of land and those squats left vacant. So I think we should be doing everything we can to discourage empty houses and to discourage vacant blocks in Vincent, and recognise that for ratepayers and for residents there is a genuine cost, a dollar cost associated, as well as a lifestyle cost with having those properties left vacant. But we'll see what the feedback is from people, and I think also that administration is to be congratulated for coming up with a budget that has such a small comparative rate increase as well, and I hope that that's going to be recognised at some point. We'll see. Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay, so Councillor Castle, do you want to say anything in conclusion? All right, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Then we move to 11.5, adoption of the long-term financial plan 2023-24 to 2032-33. Do we have a mover for this? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded. Seconded by Councillor Wallace. Councillor Castle, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try and be brief. I have a question, a suggestion and a comment. The question I have is in relation to the E30 estimates on underground power. There's a comment in the report about adding a 10% contingency on top of that. Does that then equate to E40 estimates, or could you just explain the reason for the extra contingency?
Through the chair, that would be correct. We built in 10% into those numbers. So theoretically, those Western Power numbers are plus or minus 30%. So they could be 30% higher than what Western Power has said. So we built in 10% to buffer some of that 30%. So if Western Power increased by 30%, there'd only be a 20% increase on those numbers.
Thanks. So it's really just an abundance of caution. Okay. The suggestion is, as I referred to earlier, that part of the LTFP's goal is to set community expectations around future rate rises and the position of the city. And I just wondered if what we are doing and if we could do more to ensure that that message is communicated to the community. And I wondered if that it could be included, if it hasn't already, in the budget newsletter that will go out this year, so that there is starting to have that conversation around what we think future rate rises might look like, what our reserves will look like over that 10-year period, and just to give a fuller picture to the community of what our plans are. And my comment really is just to thank administration again and to support this item. It's really led to a much smoother budget process over the last few years, and it's a document that has become a very important and useful guiding document for us. I will also note, though, that there are a number of major unfunded projects that we know about, and that's something that will always have to be at back of mind and hopefully front of mind sooner or later, as to how we might address those.
Councillor Wallace. Anyone else wish to speak on this? I wanted to just ask something. I note in relation to the underground power, of course, that we have previously had lots of. We've been advising people that the program is going to start in the next financial year, and the plan makes it clear that that's going to be postponed by a year. I was wondering if you would be able to comment on that.
Yes, to you, Mayor Zaman. That is correct. So the current LTFP has the latest timetable on Western Power. They're still going through a procurement and internal review process, so they were unable to provide us the E10s in time for them to be included in the annual budget 24-25. So at this state, the rating for that first project has been delayed by 12 months. That doesn't mean the construction will be delayed by 12 months. We're still waiting for an update from Western Power, and if there is an opportunity to commence the project in FY25, and that still works at rating in FY26, we'll explore that and come back to council when we have further information from Western Power.
So I just want to be very clear. There is a delay, but the delay is not because of the City of Vincent. It's because of Western Power. Is that correct?
To you, Mayor Zaman, yes, that is correct.
Good. I just thought I'd get that really clear. Is anyone else wanting to speak on this matter? Okay, Councillor Castle, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the proposal. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right. So, oh yes, that's right. Okay, noting that Councillor Warner is needed to leave. So because she has a financial interest. Thank you. So now we move to 11.6, event sponsorship 2024-25. Do I have a mover for this? Moved Councillor Castle. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm supportive of this. Thank you for the conversations that we've had previously about the submissions that were made and giving us some more information on those particular events that are being proposed. I have a request for future considerations of the event sponsorship, and I asked some questions about it last week around the acquittal process. I think that there's an opportunity for us to tighten up that delivery in future years and to request more in the acquittal process from the people who are receiving resident ratepayer funds to put on events. We have a number of items and events here that are regular and repeat. And I think that we could probably be collecting more information and presenting that as part of this consideration in future years as to how those events have gone, whether they've delivered on the outcomes that they discussed, whether they were able to be delivered. I'm not really sure whether we've had many events that we've approved funding for, but then they haven't gone ahead, and whether that impacts our assessment of the capacity of the organiser. That's just a request for the future that we have a bit more information about that and that we perhaps collect more of that through the acquittal process.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, thank you to all of the organisations who did apply for funding for sponsorship in this round. I agree with all of the comments by Councillor Castle in terms of that extra information and that acquittal process as well. I think those that have been funded will bring together a really diverse and exciting events program for this year. I'm looking forward to seeing all the positive impacts on the community that these events will bring. And last comment, I was quite happy to see the funding for the Perth Festival separated out from those smaller scale community events. So thank you for that.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Okay, I've got some comments. The first comment I want to make is it would be great. I know we have to approve these things on their own basis, but I'd note that a lot of the events are happening on the same day. When I went back through and actually checked with the diary, and it'd be great if we were somehow able to arrange with the people so that there weren't events that are all on the same day. Like I note that one event is, for example, is going to be down in Beaufort Street, and at the same time there's going to be a festival in Hyde Park, and they're really close to each other. So like both, they're on at the same time, but also, yeah. So I understand they're different groups that have applied for funding for those things, but as a council, it would be so wonderful if we could have that staggered around and in different dates, so that people could enjoy weekend after weekend after weekend of living in fabulous Vincent. So that was one comment. The second thing I wanted to comment on was we are funding the St Patrick's Day event again, which is great. By all accounts, people really enjoy it. But I do want to make the comment that perhaps it's time to actually look a little bit differently at how the oval itself is used. I am aware that after the last St Patrick's Day event, there was significant damage which was done to the turf at Leederville Oval, and that was just before the beginning of the waffle season, and that's a problem. I don't want us to forget that the Leederville Oval is primarily a sports ground, and we need to actually protect the turf. And it is the home for 2 football clubs, including the Mighty Royals, and so it is really important that we do that. One of the things that has been suggested for next year, and it's not up to me to organise this for the St Patrick's Day committee, but I'm going to put it forward, is perhaps a Gaelic football match being held as part of the St Patrick's Day festivities on the oval itself. Personally, I think that would be awesome, and I reckon you'd get a lot of people that don't ordinarily go to the event that would come along to watch a Gaelic football match. I'd like to see Gaelic football permanently in Vincent if we can, and I would go to the matches. I think that would be great. So I'm hoping that as the organisation of this unfolds, just suggesting that it would be worthwhile remembering what the primary purpose of that oval is, so that we don't see the sort of damage to the turf that we saw, that we've seen previously. Trucks really shouldn't be going onto the oval, in essence. That's really the problem. That's the thing that does the damage. But other than those 2 comments, I'm really looking forward to a lot of the events. I am going to have to miss some because they're clashing, but, we'll see how we go. So did anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay, so Councillor Castle, do you want to say anything? I'll put the proposal. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Councillor Warner can be brought back into the room. Okay, so now we move on to item 12.2, advertising of amended policy, council members continuing professional development. We're noting that this requires an absolute majority decision. Is anyone prepared to move this? Moved Councillor Wolf, seconded Councillor Greer. Councillor Wolf, do you wish to say anything?
This review is conducted after each ordinary election. You can see that there are a handful of substantive changes. Most of those are just for alignment with the WALGA template on this topic, so happy to support it moving to consultation.
Councillor Greer.
Just to say thank you to administration for doing this, and I support it.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Alexander.
I see some of these as an urn for Walga, who stick the catheter into 139 local governments to ensure they've got a winner. And I'll be voting against it. I mean, understanding financial reports and that, there's many people, I suspect, sitting around here that understand financial reports and don't need to go to an all-day seminar run by the ex-CEO of Cunderdin, for example. So I think we need to consider why some of these things are mandatory. And some people would already have them in their CV. I understand understanding local government. That's an impossibility anyway, but keep going.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? I'll just make the observation that decisions around compulsory training is made by the state government. It's not made by the City of Vincent. We'll also note that when I was elected to state parliament, I had to undergo no training. Just thought I'd make that observation. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay, so Councillor Wolf, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the proposal. All those in favour? Against? Okay, Councillor Alexander against. We still have an absolute majority, so that has been passed. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is 12.3, annual review of delegations, noting that an absolute majority decision is required for this to be passed. Do we have a mover for this motion? Moved Councillor Hallett, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Councillor Hallett, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you. I support the suggestions of changes. One of the main ones, I guess, that was flagged early was the change to the development around heritage developments in response to a change that we previously had made, and having enacted that for some time has seen some perhaps unfortunate wastes of efficiency to send things to council that weren't really necessary. So happy to support the changes to that.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you, Mayor. That was another one that stood out for me within this around losing that oversight of those DAs on heritage listed places. That is unfortunate, sort of, to lose that touch with an issue that is really important to us. But understanding those assurance mechanisms that have gone in to ensure that we've got consistent and desirable outcomes, that's in there, and we need to consider the resourcing involved. I did actually have a question, if now's an appropriate time to ask. If we do get a DA concerning a single house that has a significant number of objections, and that's after the 1st of July, would council be informed even though it's no longer a decision maker on that? Thanks.
Mayor Zaman, there is nothing under the planning regulations changes that require that or mandate a notification to elected members. But aside from that, administration is currently working through developing a process around how we can manage this change and ensuring that we've got appropriate touch points and communications to those that need to know. So when we've developed that further, we'll be sure to communicate that.
Thank you. I think that would be something that would be really important. Thanks.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Hallett, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously, which is also obviously an absolute majority. Okay, right. So we have no confidential items, and there being no further business to conduct, I thank all those in attendance and on the live stream, and I close the meeting at 7:36. Can you please turn off the live stream?